Election day is almost here. In less than 48 hours, voters head to the polls in Kansas City, Missouri, making important decisions about the people they'd like to lead their city. We discuss the council races. Today, we focus on the top of the ticket. Mayor Quinton Lucas wants another term, once again facing off against challenger Clay Chastain, the only other candidate not written onto the primary ballot in April. Lucas won the primary in a landslide, beating Chastain more than 4-1. Chastain also lost the last two times he ran for mayor. We'll get to that in a minute. You might ask, why spend time on a race already widely dismissed as over, as a blowout before Election Day? Simply put, it's about addressing the issues here at home. People are dying at an alarming rate. There's an affordable housing crisis taking shape. The list goes on. These issues matter. There are two people on the ballot, and they should answer questions about how they want to lead Kansas City for the next 4 years. This week, we'll speak to both candidates running for Kansas City's top job. We begin with incumbent Mayor Quinton Lucas. Thanks for coming on during a busy time for Kansas City. We have a lot to talk about. Sadly, the marquee item right now is crime, right? We've had a very rough month, several killings spread across our city, on pace for a record year. When you ran for your first term as mayor, you set a goal of trying to get the homicide rate below 100 people killed a year. We've been well above that. I know there was no instant solution here, but what needs to change and what is in the works right now to try and curb these numbers?
I think a few things have changed for the positive. A new police chief in Stacey Graves is working collaboratively, not just with the city, the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office, to make sure that we're working on prevention, intervention, and enforcement. And all steps are important. And so on the enforcement side, hiring more police officers now for the first time in the last several years, I think is going to have a positive impact. In addition to that, we are spending more money than ever before at City Hall to make sure that we're working on things like intervention. How do you break the cycle of violence? So many of the homicides in our city are retaliation for past offenses. We're trying to make sure that we get in between those actions so that we can tell people there has to be a different path, or you'll either face the law or threats yourself.
Does that mean trying to earmark money again for community outreach programs like you tried to do a couple of years ago?
Yes, it is. And this year we were able to do that, actually. And so we have more programmatic efforts, including Teens in Transition, where I spent time the other day with 14, 15, 16-year-old teenagers in Kansas City, helping them do things like get more skills for jobs ultimately, know their own value, know opportunities for them in our city long term. It's going to take all of these steps right now, but they're ones that we're doing. In addition, I do think guns are a part of our gun violence conversation. Kansas City continues to do work to get guns out of the hands of domestic violence offenders. We've stood up a program that requires them to turn those guns in if they've been adjudicated a domestic violence offender, because when you look at the number of homicides we've had, it really is a lot of them, right? And it's rarely random acts. It is those who may be involved in any type of criminal activity. It's domestic violence incidents, and sadly, it's gangland activity. All of those need to be addressed. We're working hard to make sure we're breaking up all of them, but importantly, it's going to require trust between the police department, the people of Kansas City, and I'm proud that we're on a path to do more of that today than we were before.
You mentioned staffing at KCPD. 3 months ago, the chief sat down with us and told me that a recruitment strategy was in the works. Those are the words that she used. All while KCPD is at its lowest force strength in decades. As you know, 911 wait times are well above the national standards, people waiting minutes, sometimes 5 minutes like your sister did. How does the city turn this staffing issue around, and what's the strategy here?
You know, a few different things. First, I've always said that you need to make sure salaries are not just competitive with the region, but are the best in the region, and currently they are not, neither for our officers or our 911 call takers. I think the path that we should look at is what we've done at the Kansas City Fire Department. At a time when it is very hard to hire in every industry in America, we almost have historically high class numbers at KCFD of more than 100 people who have signed up in the last recruiting class. How have we done that? You know, if you work with the fire department, the benefits will be strong, the pay will be strong, the pension program all strong. I think that's the sort of message we need to lay out with Kansas City's police department, not just for officers, but for our civilian staff, including call takers. That's going to be key. One of the places where I've had discussions in this interesting system of a state board of police commissioners is making sure that they see that same priority. As a member of the Board of Police Commissioners, I got passed a resolution that said we would not raid salary expenses, the millions in salaries, to fund other items, sometimes wants, at the Kansas City Police Department. We need to make sure we stick to that. Pay the monetary increases, because the police budget is the largest it has ever been in this city's history.
Do you think it's too large?
I don't think it's too large. I supported this budget. I think it is where it needs to be. But obviously, and I have critiques from the left and the right. Right, there are some who say, yeah, you're paying this big budget, but we still have these crime concerns. And there are some who say, well, you should just double it, and that'll fix it all. I think there is no panacea necessarily. We are going to have to do the work to recruit more officers, recruit more call takers. That's not just a money issue. That's not just an issue of saying, hey, come join us. It's going to take us going out into communities more often. I think that will have an impact on public safety ultimately, but there's this other step, right? When I was with those teenagers I mentioned before, and I asked them what were the biggest issues in Kansas City, and they know, and they have experienced violence in their neighborhoods. They said, we need to work on housing. We need to work on youth programs so that they have something to do. We need more jobs in the city. All of those things are part of the conversation.
Let's talk about housing, because there is an affordable housing issue here in Kansas City as far as a shortage. And, we're at this point, and we saw this forum a couple of weeks ago where, people first off are saying $1,200 a month for a one-bedroom apartment is not affordable, especially in this economy.
Sure.
And then developers are claiming that they are leaving the city because they can't work well with the council. So what is your plan to try to mend fences and right the ship and address this problem?
Kansas City government in the last 4 years has done more to create affordable and attainable housing than it has ever done in its history. I say that as someone who served prior to the last 4 years. Our Housing Trust Fund bond, which is $75 million invested in affordable and attainable housing citywide, by the way, new affordable workforce housing in the Northland and South Kansas City, and certainly on the east side of Kansas City, are things that are important for us addressing it. So that's just one key step. The private market is an important part of it, but also making sure that we're creating and generating more housing is key. And on the affordability point, the city is creating housing for those who can pay $0 a month for rent up to $1,200 a month for rent. It is not saying that everybody can pay $1,200, and it never has been that, and I think that's been a distortion in many ways. What we are saying is that we recognize that we need housing for those who are homeless today, and we're providing it, but we also need to create housing opportunity for people who are making $40,000 a year. $42,000 a year and want to be able to live in the city and not commute an hour in each day. That's where we're trying to create more middle market housing, and I think right now Kansas City is in a strong place to do it. We've created thousands of new units of housing, which is also something to be very proud of, and I expect us to do more of it over the years ahead.
What is the first thing you would do if elected to a second term? What's number one on the priority list that you haven't been able to get done yet?
Oh my God, there are a lot of things. Of course, we continue to improve the streets at an historic scale as compared to the way we did it before, doubling the lane miles of resurfacing, which will lead to fewer potholes. But I think this 911 call taker issue is something that people in Kansas City expect. We recognize that you can't fix every problem immediately. But you know what? When you call 911, when you're somebody in my sister's position who calls 911, you should expect an answer immediately. And I expect that to be fixed potentially even before we get to August.
All right. Well, Mayor Quinton Lucas, we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.